for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumine, beloved divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me here today. I want to talk about the recent energetic upgrade and a discharge that this full moon in Aries brought us. So have you guys felt the most recent shift? I sure have. So I haven't really been feeling quite like myself for the past few weeks. It's just like all the energy that was a result of the spirit life force that I've channeled was used in this most recent development that our light team has here to establish, and it's related to this portal work here that I do, and it was all sort of channeled right into this work energetically. So there was not a lot left for me, but this full moon in Aries really brought a new energetic upgrade. So since the lunation, I felt a lot of release prior to the moon actually taking place, and then afterwards it was this huge jolting, almost like of electricity. And the next day I just started to pulsate with this new sort of energetic feeling in my body, and it was really gradually building up, and the frequency was very intense. So it's very important at this time, as you know, to ground, because Aries is the sign that it's a cardinal sign, as you know, and it sort of initiates new energy into motion. And for us to know how to do that, we first need to understand what does true releasing mean. And I've been recently sharing about this on my Patreon page called Illumination. So there was quite a long update about what is the truth about releasing, because a lot of people talk about, you know, all these energetic initiations sort of like happening automatically, and it's not really like that. You know, the energy moves into the planetary sphere of existence, and yet we each hold an affinity to that energy that we have acquired through our own energetic work. And a lot of the people say or even share about what a certain type of energy is supposed to come through a certain lunation in terms of what they intuitively feel, or through very general responses. You know, we have like these general outlines, what a certain lunation means in terms of, well, a full moon in Aries means this, a full moon in Pisces means that, right? Or a new moon in Aquarius means this and that. But this is very general. For us to become very specific with energy, we'd first have to walk through the gateway. That is why you will never see me make a video prior to something actually occurring, because I do not do that. I do not put labels on the energy before it really moves through my body. That's a grounded aspect in terms of, you know, first opening up to that energetic initiation and then receiving it or not. And it always is a blessing when we work with energetic streams, right, that really are fluid. They come as spirals of energy that we have to sort of master. We have to know how to receive from these, especially new energetic impulses that come as these spirals. And since we were taught this linear approach for so long, for this entire eon of time, we're still holding notions of defining and you know, like holding definitions about things or stuff in general. Not just relationships or ourselves. We put labels on anything or everything. And this is sort of like what keeps us in this rigid mode, right? We say, oh, this sort of lunation is approaching and it's called this and that, where we have each lunation, as we know, we have a certain name. But this still holds us in a sort of like a linear framework that's old. And it's still dualistic, because in ancient times they held reverence for the energy coming through. They understood certain guidelines through principalities that these guidelines hold, and yet they were also open to working with the energy intuitively as it comes through. Illumination has to be exact, or any other alignment in terms of the galactic perspective. It has its release, right? It has its building momentum, and it has its summation point, and then it has its release. So for us to learn these things, we have to release these rigid modes of thinking, right? This dualistic thinking that still keeps us locked in this linear framework. That's just one way to work with energy. The other term is what I've been sharing about for years. The labels we place on simply everything, and the most popular labels nowadays, of course, have to do with spirituality. We are talking about the spirit realm here as it moves into matter. And for us, you know, it's very simple to read a few lines about something or follow through what someone has been saying and then make our own assumptions based on what we have sort of, you know, like what we've received through that. And that is not a true energetic reflection of what actually unfolded through our body. And I've been talking about the embodiment process for years, and I'm not sure how many people actually listen to that and how many people actually take it in as it is, because we are still, as a society, we're so programmed into these belief systems that we just believe they're going to automatically release themselves, right? When we go through these passageways, like this moon will bring us that, and that moon will bring us this, and this alignment will bring us that, and then we have the 11:11 will bring us that. Personally, when I go through gateways, I'm looking around what is happening at that time in my life, and then I'm squeezing that in. I'm trying to associate that with the higher aspect and the higher perspective and what wants to come through these sort of earthly events. And this is how spirit and matter merge. You can't do that by just saying, oh, you know, like wishful thinking, this moon is so awesome and juicy and it brings this and that. You know, people who always only talk about the positive aspects and they're negating the negative aspects that we also hold here. We have all these assumptions, projections, that sort of, you know, liabilities that keep us stuck in a certain mode, which really, they make us rigid in a way. And so we can move forward into new energetic expressions that flow through the spiral of spirit. And so people who are only looking at the positive aspects, and it's not just about working with the shadow, or working with the light, it's about working with the totality of all. It's working with the sum of all parts as one. That's true unity consciousness. And in terms of duality, right, how do we move into unity? I always notice this in majority of people, how they think. We always think that duality means you have to be extremely dualistic or really rigid and ego and you're not awake, or people who are very much fighting against and struggling with, or, you know, war kind of mentality. This is not the only expression of duality. Duality can lurk in the most hidden aspects of our psyche that we ourselves will often neglect to notice because we're just not aware of that also being duality. Unity consciousness means that you're so unified within yourself, you're so focused on yourself that you are the reflection of the world. You refine yourself. You're like a pure crystalline consciousness that your own mirror will reflect the world. You yourself will be translucent and transparent for the energies moving through you, because your example just reflects the world, the totality of all, because you yourself have become total and whole and complete. So in many cases, I notice people who won't notice what duality means at not such obvious ways that we often neglect to see or notice is, for one example, recently someone wrote to me saying something about me, right? It was this statement. And I've been exposed to this world, you know, the online community for so long. And although I've closed up my accounts and emails and all of that, because I really needed to be with the work that we do here as light beings on earth with a specific mission, I still get sometimes these sayings and thoughts and often assumptions from people, and I've gotten used to them, and still I don't judge them, but I see them in terms of how people still think, how we as humans still tend to think often, and making these assumptions like life is like this through my eyes, and then putting that label onto another because we have an impression upon something and we think, well, that's probably the truth, and we make these statements about others like, you know, and sort of we want to push them on into their stream of energy, although it might not be their truth at all. But it's duality still hidden within that, because duality is any notion within which you think you know better than, or you know more than the other, because, you know, only you yourself can truly know your path. And even when you don't, it's for a reason that you don't. That's where you are currently, and no one gets to tell you, well, I know better for you, or I found this for you, or I found this person for you, and this is what it is for you. And in many cases, that's their truth, that's their projection, because they're only taking up experiences of their own life, you know, summaries of their own life experiences, that they're sort of like putting them in this box and labeling onto you, and they're sort of like filtering that experience through their own eyes, which means they're using their own experience and then passing it on to the other or others or world at large, because it's a projection. That's how energy is projected. So in the Patreon update for this full moon, I've been writing about how when we project energy in this way, we're never going to get to the core of what we're truly here to do. What is our core truth, our core mission? And in those terms, our manifestations will reflect that. They're going to reflect that non-alignment, because it's all about finding resonance. But that resonance is not just what you wish to manifest, it's resonance with truth. When you are in that resonance of truth, everything else will automatically align and correspond with that. So we all nowadays, we see these expressions of people trying to manifest all these things in their lives, but you will see yourself when you take a look. Just take a look what's being said most of the times. Not a whole lot of people. It's like maybe less even than 1%. I would say it's even less than 1% of how many of those beings who talk about the laws of manifestation and bringing things into reality are literally talking about what is behind the scenes, the most important factor, and what gets that done, what merges spirit and matter. Because ultimately you can manifest anything, but it will not necessarily support you at the core level and your core being align with your core truth. And we all have unique correspondence with that. As you know, we have to find that point of resonance. So for me, this Aries lunation was very much about resetting those ideas we have about the world. And even if we believe they're correct, it's not just about ourselves, it's also about others and maybe the environment we live in and things like that. And even the way we're resisting where we are right now in this moment, it's keeping us stuck. But at the same time, we say, well, if I'm only gonna think about that and visualize that and bring that into my reality, it's all going to just automatically fall into place because I'm putting energy there. Well, no, because there's hidden aspects within us that are still locking us into this current experience by holding judgments and assumptions about where we are, how we are, or who we are with. So it's very important that we first do that reflective mode work to get to the core, to be really, really introspective about ourselves, because wisdom is only gained through pure reflection and life's experience. So it's not necessarily about age, but it is also about age, because just like refined old wine, right? It's in a distillery of sorts. We ourselves are a distillery. We are an alchemical being, and our bodies are, in a way, a refined distillery if we work with them consciously. So Aries is a lot about the body because it is the first sign. It initiates new energy, but new energy cannot be initiated or moved into motion without us really finding that focal point of resonance. And I've been writing about that. I've been channeling that in the update on Patreon. So if you're following there with my work, or if you one day wish to, each lunation will always bring a light grid and then the energies to work with, to integrate. The path that I teach is a lumen union and the integration of spirit and matter. What most people call the twin path or divine union is not mostly in what I teach. It's much deeper than what we perceive it to be. And that's one of the reasons why I do these updates and have these sharings to, if only with a few who are ready to accept that and embrace that higher truth, we will then bring that forth and make it a paved way in this reality at this time. Otherwise, it's just going to pass us through or pass us by. So it's really important to see where we ourselves are locked in the framework of duality. And even if we think our intentions are good, we really have to dig very deep to find these focal points of projection where we are making summaries in terms of summarization that is sort of performed through our own experience, not that of others. Especially if you don't know someone, you have to embrace the fact that perhaps you don't have any clue about them, especially if you're watching someone online and you just have an ideal, or you're thinking they are what they are, and yet they might not be that at all. So even for ourselves, there's a lot of things we sort of hold assumptions about. In my case, I've noticed a lot of resistance still in my human being that did not want to be here in this way. It was very difficult and challenging, and that's very natural and very normal. But this resistance has to be seen for what it is. And when you're feeling it, you have to know, oh, I'm in the resistance mode. And you have to feel it with all of your being, with all of your gut, truly, for it to express itself. At the deepest level, you really have to feel your resistance. You can't just say, oh, I'm not supposed to feel resistance because I'm this new agey, flaky person that wants all good and all love light. And it's not going to move you anywhere. It's just going to keep repeating. You might change a lot of locations. You might meet a lot of new people. You might put a lot of new intentions out. But at the core level, you will see that what a lot of people are doing, they're creating a lot of things, but they're just more and more debris. They're not really what their soul longs for. And the longing of the soul is that which we often mask with appearances, and that which is the next best thing, I might call it. It's like, I really want that, but because I'm not getting it yet, maybe I'm going to go to shop or do this. And, we all have that. I had it myself. Right? When you are truly working within spirit integrity, you're not going to lie about yourself. You're going to embrace the human aspect. But a lot of the things we mask under false pretenses of saying, well, these excuses we give ourselves and others. If someone in relationship will tell you something they don't like, and you say, well, I'm not going to apologize myself because that's not what I meant. Well, they still are showing you something. They're showing you a mirror of something you maybe overlooked. And when we overlook things, we usually miss the gift that Spirit is trying to show us through the reflection coming to us. So at that point, we really need to move deeper within and soul search until an answer is found, and we are more complete than we were, if not, able to see that coming through. And a lot of the times it's denial, because we're so fixed in where we are, and we think that's where our spirituality is, and that's just how we are, instead of saying that's just where we are. And it's not necessarily who we are. And so the freedom of being where we are is immense. We all have it. But we are also free to keep on moving, and that's the part belonging to our soul expansion and evolution of our journey. So if you wish to go deeper, and if you are one of those beings who always you always want to move forward, and you always want not the next best thing, but the next right thing for you, the thing that comes through devotion and immense investment of yourself into this process of what I call the lumen ascension and the journey of illumination, which is truly the coming together of what we call light and dark, and embracing these polarities, no longer being at war with each other, but coming into union more and more, as it's happening on several galactic planes, and just entwining more and more. And we are the ones who are doing that. It's not just going to get done automatically because a few divine dispensations came through. They are our opportunities, but we either take them or not. So if you are one of these fellow devoted ones, you're always welcome on my Patreon page, where this work is being done, and we go quite deep. I don't know if I've shared this with you before, perhaps I did, but each month I also choose someone from the group that will get a goddess provision box for me, which is a bag full of crystalline goodies and other things that I sometimes create, and it's very much packed with energy, loaded with energy. So far, all of the candidates that have gotten these gifts were very excited. They all felt the energy coming through, even people who weren't perhaps working with crystalline energy this way before. So I always like to provide the best, the highest, most refined. So that is why I'm here for, to guide into this journey of illumination, but first guiding myself, my own human counterpart. And that is why I cannot share when I'm not impulsed to share, or what I'm impulsed to share, before first walking through it and into it myself. So at 11/11, which is in November, I was already shown we're going to have a strong summation point at this time. Strong coming together of this illumination journey, especially this year. It's every year, this gateway is important, but this year I'm showing it's a very important pivotal point of the coming togetherness and the grand event. So I'm going to be talking about this as well on Patreon. There's 3 different levels where you can join. There is The deepest level is called the Galactic Mastery. Then we have Illumin Ascension, Illumin Union Mastery, and then we have Ascension Updates, Illumin Ascension. So 3 levels where you can join. Everything is there. It's all shared if you want to be in the space. And if you're not just here to create and find yourself in that space, but you really want to create an Illumin way, which is the way aligned with the core of who we truly are, is, you know, the potential for becoming illumined beings as well through our human counterpart. So anyway, I'll also be talking about the High Council meeting, something that I was really engaging with of the late. So these are some of the things I'm doing these live transmissions now. So it's quite interesting. And as always, so much love, wisdom, and power, and take care wherever you are and whoever you truly are. Enjoy. Many blessings. Bye-bye.
Magical.